and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Let the record show that all members of the committee are present. Councilman Avens, Councilman DeVries, and myself, Chairwoman Swift. Also in attendance is Council President Jason Jacobs, Council at Large Georgia Haywig, Ward 2 Rep Dennis Booth. We also have parts of the administration, the mayor, safety service director, chief of police, the prosecutor, Sean Keller. And then special guest, we have Superintendent Roxanne Casario and Tammy as Merrick, from the supervisor from the bus garage. And then before you, you have the safety committee meeting minutes. January 31st, 2022. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved. So at this time, we're going to open the lobby session. Lobby session is open for anyone in the public to make any comments or questions. You can go to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We'll give you 3 minutes to speak. Anybody interested? All right. Lobby session is closed. So tonight we're here to discuss T84-2022 and the penalty section of the North Ridgeville Codified Ordinance, section 32.30, stopping for a school bus. So I actually am the one that introduced this legislation because we have a really big issue, I feel, people that are floating school buses. I invited Tammy to come today to show us some video. But before Tammy shows us video, I was going to ask if anybody maybe had any questions or concern about the legislation.
I have to admit, I'm a bit concerned that the first time that violated, we're charging $1,000. I did speak with the judge, some lawyers, a few police officers. I don't know about Ridgeville. Concerned many times when we find it's too large. Police are apprehensive about writing the ticket. Judges are apprehensive about charging the full amount. So that's my concern. So possibly, I was thinking that possibly what we might want to do instead of making it a first time offense, make it $1,000 for repeat offenders. Possibly increasing it for repeat offenders. One thing I know about many of the citizens $500 hurts. And the judge told me, he said, most folks, when they break the law, they're not thinking about the consequences if they get caught. So, yeah, yourself an experience on somebody who didn't see the books. Also, the lawyer pointed out that $1,000. So that's my concern. Again, it's a serious offense. Hope that's not that. I'm just wondering if it might be too severe.
I guess my question is, and maybe the chief could speak on this, or school hall, this is really current. Say it's a big problem, but I would just let's feedback. Is this a common act that accommodating someone on? Is it truly that big of a problem? We need to change our laws. The reason I say this is because I'm just not, I'm not a fan of ever changing laws. I'm more about enforcing laws. I think we have enough laws already. But yeah, if we see that there's repeated offenders that we need to rein in, then maybe it is time to make a change. My question just goes back to the chair and to the chief as far as how often this is really occurring.
Council Administration.
It happens enough. We'd be 3-4 times a week sometimes. I agree with what Mr. Heath is saying, that the disconnect sometimes at the board level, where I believe the current law that was enforced is enough. But in situations where late violations, nothing has occurred. That's my concern.
I would consider 3 or 4 times a week excessive, especially when it comes to our children. Child safety is most important.
There's problematic areas. It's an education thing where I think a lot of people don't understand the law, whether it be lanes or 4 lanes. I think that's a big part of it. People are very busy in their lives with food in the cars, cell phones in the cars, and whatnot. Like I said, I believe there's a disconnect. The importance that we put on this, and the importance is being put on everyone.
Thank you.
So, look, as Chief mentioned, it happens all too often. I know we've tried a marketing campaign. In the past, we've had signs out there all over the place. I know, on some campaign material, there was phrases on there, stop for school buses. When I've mentioned it out loud, I'm always amazed that people can't see the gigantic yellow bus with the flashing lights and the stop sign that swings out. I mean, it's ridiculous that they don't stop for it. And I get the confusion over the law, and as somebody said once upon a time, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So, it is something that we need to take a look at. And I think change. I will address this particular suggestion though, as far as making this a first-degree misdemeanor. I think that'll be excessive, really, for the only reason that when you introduce jail time into the punishment, you start getting into issues of requiring or having the opportunity to have a court-appointed lawyer appointed to you. And in those instances, then, if that's going to be the case, the cases most likely will all wind up going to Elyria Community Court. And that's a problem for the city on a couple different levels, but I don't know that, given at least the current structure of the legal system right now, that anybody will actually be sentenced to jail. So I think that adding that component into the mix might be excessive. And from that standpoint, we should probably reduce it down to maybe a mandatory minimum fine. I know there's been a couple of instances this year where cases have either gotten dismissed, or in one instance that there's been an acquittal. We're looking at the procedures that we follow on our end to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. But the system has 3 different levels. First there's the offense, but that gets reviewed by the police department. Then it gets reviewed by the prosecutor, and then ultimately, at least in mayor's court, there's a magistrate that reviews that as well. So not all cases make it through all 3 steps. And if it gets sent over to Elyria Municipal Court, we have a unique situation where our magistrate here in mayor's court is the same magistrate in Elyria Municipal Court. So in most cases, the outcome will be the same no matter which court. My preference would be to keep the cases here in our court.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that, and maybe safety director knows this, how does our legislation compare to the local area like Avon Lake? Do they have the same thing as far as or Chief, do you have any idea as far as what they're enforcing?
Most laws are reciprocal to this Ohio Vice Code. In other words, you're using verbiage from the Ohio Vice Code. The only thing that changes is the in working with Tammy, you gotta understand these things can be done one of two ways. Tammy's bus drivers do a great job of setting up videos. And videos are reviewed once we get them to ensure we have a violation. So Tammy picks them over, obviously, we pick them over, we send them a report, and obviously, that's one way, where the officer observes it firsthand, the violation taking place. So they can happen by law one of two ways. Like I said, Tammy does a great job of doing the videos. And this is where I have to disagree with the mayor a little bit. We just want the opportunity to present evidence. We're not being given the opportunity to present evidence at court of at least two violations that were blatant.
What do you mean by that? So the prosecutor doesn't see the videos? They don't get-
Mayor's court is a, go ahead, John. Explain the process.
I don't always see the videos because sometimes the first time I know that there's a school bus pickup ticket coming is when I see it. I get back from court on Wednesday, I go and I dump my bag and I walk down here and then I just start going through the cases a lot of times. More often than not, there's speeding cases or that kind of thing, but then there's always a curveball in there, and then there's a school bus in there. I want to say 6 out of 10 times they're just going to plead to it because they've spoken with the officer. They've been assured that they're on the video, and so that most of the time they just plead to it. Every once in a while they'll say, "I don't think I did it," and I would like to see I would like to see the video. I will often say, "Well, do you want to just continue it here, and I'll try to get you the video in the meantime?" Or they'll just want to go right over to a area court, at which point they'll see the video. But they rarely just go right over to a area court. In that interim period, I'll usually see the video, make sure I send it out to them. Then when we come back the second time, I say, "Did you see yourself on video?" They go, "Oh, yeah. And they just leave to that.
My concern with that is we're not even getting that opportunity.
Right, so if you had simple access to see these videos.
No, Sean does have access, but what he's saying is he's not even aware there's a bus ticket. In other words, they're either supposed to plead or the government gets a chance to display its case. They're being dismissed without the ability to us even prove our case.
We don't have trials in there, so.
It's a court whether you plead or get sent.
So you plead here or it goes there.
Correct. But unfortunately, things are being dismissed where we can't even show our evidence. I.e. the video.
Now, I'm only aware of 2, maybe they're only using it 2.
It is, I'm only aware of it. But the thing is, 2 are blatant. Okay, but we're talking about raising a penalty, right? Using a really big hammer, and we're not even using a small hammer. That's what upsets me.
How do we use these small?
Well, that's above my pay grade.
We have
Do it.
typically when someone comes and I'm sitting right here, they're sitting here, I'm sitting right there. Typically when somebody comes up, they are embarrassed, common phrases, "I have kids of my own," "I would never do that knowingly," and they are pretty repentant. I usually will tell them, it's a maximum of $500 and there's a license suspension to go with it, but I'm not interested in a $500 fine from you. Can you pay $250? They will usually do that, and happily so, and feel terrible about the fact that they're asked the school bus. That's kind of the small hammer. It could be a $500. I could ask for a license suspension, but it generally doesn't warrant it.
No, that's not what I'm referring to. I'm saying we're looking at assessing bigger fines. That's the bigger hammer. The smaller hammer is, look, I agree with Mr. Abrams wholeheartedly. $500 or $250 from somebody's wallet, especially these days, it can be the difference between paying the electric bill and not paying the electric bill. I don't think, in my personal opinion, I like the idea of a graduated offense. My concern is we're not using what we currently have, so why are we trying to make something bigger? That's all I'm saying. And I agree with Mr. Akins. Look, a lot of people make mistakes. We're not looking at criminal mistakes with driver's license suspensions, because obviously we're going backwards. Now they don't have a way to get to work. I think Sean does an excellent job using his tools to deter. But like I said, Sean's got to be given the ability to use his tools.
Question I would have is, these videos, what type of media are they on?
What happens is Tammy sends us over, and what we do is put in a case file on Axon. So basically, the prosecutor has a copy, we have a copy. Obviously, the bus drive is the originator. So if there's a records request, what have you, it's the property of bus drive. But what happens after Tammy sends us the video, we view that it is a violation. Okay, we will go out and make contact with that vehicle owner to see who the driver is, because you just can't cite a vehicle with a bus violation. You just can't cite the owner. You got to find out who the driver was on that specific date and time. Okay, what we do is obviously we tell them we review the video, we issue a citation to marriage court, it goes forward from there. Unless we see it first.
I'm just trying to figure out how to get the video into the prosecutor's hands.
So,
Well, but you have to understand, this is supposed to be an arraignment. You're supposed to be guilty or not guilty. You're not supposed to be trial.
I understand, but they're
So if he is not guilty, Sean is going to prepare, so when it goes over to later in this court, I'm going to ask you, you have the video, what did you see, what you testified to? Mayor's court is not supposed to be a court of, it's an arraignment court. You either plead, to some degree.
so showing evidence during the first court hearing is kind of out of.
Yes, that's not, it's on Sean. Sean's handling 50 people.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, I don't want, I want them to feel comfortable that they passed the school bus. And when they look at me and they earnestly say, I didn't see any school bus, I don't think I passed the school bus, I will try to let them see the video before they decide to go to a barrier court. So to keep it here, to keep the school bus fine money here in the mayor's court.
But there are some school buses that don't have videos. Okay, and obviously the police officers, we don't have dash cams. So there are different types of situations that go with that Sean tried to handle.
Right, and I recently had one, I was looking for a video, and it turns out that one of our officers personally viewed the offense. So there was no video, it was just, it would be his testimony. I don't think that one was disputed, so.
So I brought Tammy here because she actually had given Hijabi access to show videos. It's on Google Drive. So Tammy, if you want to step up to the podium and show a couple videos.
So I have a couple here that, and I completely, when I first started doing this, the whole 3-lane, 4-lane thing, I get it. Some people just don't get it. All the videos that I have here are 2-lane roads. People literally drive underneath the stop sign, and it's unacceptable. She's a mouse.
Yeah.
So
Tammy, what years are you looking at here?
these, most of them are this year.
Okay.
There's a couple from a couple years back. This one right here is very concerning for me. It's an icy day at the corner of Denise and Leslie, or Denise and Deborah. The child is standing off to the left, you can see a shadow. The red lights are on and they've been on.
This is exactly what Tammy sends us.
Luckily, 90% of our children are trained to wait until the driver tells them to proceed. All it takes is one kindergartner that has not had that training. And I don't want to go to that scene. I know you don't want to go to that scene. I don't. It's just, it's very, like, this is very concerning for me. Let's see. Excuse my driver, they get very upset, so you can't hear them. This is, now the stop arm is out.
You hear the bus driver telling the kids, you gotta wait.
Like I said, most of our kids are trained, just they wait, but. This is a parent. They didn't go through, but this is a parent. She literally just dropped her children off at the bus stop. The black SUV to the left.
No.
These are the ones that really get to me. Those are the ones that really frustrate me when I see those. So, these are, like I said, these are 2-lane roads. This is Route 83.
Actually have students crossing 83.
We do not allow children to cross 83, and this year we're flipping our runs around so they don't cross Chestnut either, because.
Stop sign wasn't out.
Please tell me the bus.
Yeah. No. But we cannot flip our runs. We can't flip it so every kid is in a cross. We've never been to this.
I was on, behind a bus on Sugar Ridge a couple Fridays ago, and they were crossing, and I'm going with, just because you never know. I mean, it's crazy. These are the actual videos that you send to the police department.
Are all the buses equipped with cameras?
I don't know.
How many buses? Ones that I have seen generally pretty good views. They have, some buses have a camera from the back that goes forward, so you can see the paddle come out and you can see the bus go by. So it gives you, in case they say, well, the paddle wasn't out yet, or the thing, there's video evidence that's not.
And change of license plate, well, correct me if you're not wrong, you're not required to have a front plate. We've had discussions with Tammy that now it's, we had to do something to cover the back plate.
We started flipping our cameras for the parents.
So they're gonna come from the front of the bus to the back of the bus, so you catch the back plate. So that's the other changes.
And I understand that, hefty fines, a lot of people don't like that, but, when a kid gets killed, who gets to pay for that kid's funeral? Most parents don't have life insurance on their children. That's just what kind of stings at me, is what, because it's happened.
I don't disagree, and I'm just saying, the lay of the land right now, like I said. I'm not. It's just the ones that fall through the cracks. They keep concerned. For the most part, they do a very nice job of theirs. They should fall through the cracks. And that's what aggravates me, just like everything is. It's a good, it's time.
Chief, what steps would you recommend that we take?
Well, me and the mayor have already talked about some type of campaign on Facebook, the city and ours, when school starts. We'll go to those problematic areas, US 20 shade down, by animal clinic is one, because that's a 4-lane road that has a problem on a day we have rain. Help me what the law is. But outside of that, like I said, the law is in place. You don't know when out. I mean, it's like seatbelts. I used to ride it on the slab. Seatbelt law that pushed down our throat so long, they're just not paying attention to life. We're going to go out and do some type of campaign close to school time. We actually get an officer on the road and say, hey, this area, you gotta remember how much traffic travels from North Ridgeville that are North Ridgeville. You got thousands and thousands and thousands.
As far as the legislation, did you make any changes?
I like the idea of the mandatory. And I like the idea where somebody can't come in and say, we're used to it, but once again, then you take the hands out of the good prosecutor where he understands, gotta give him something. Gotta give him some leeway.
We'll point out that it was most recently Avon Lake who changed their mandatory minimum to $500. That received a lot of media attention at the time. From what we know, the number of cases of people passing school buses have gone down since they passed that. I believe Avon is also at a $500 mandatory minimum. I get that, it's expensive. You add court costs in. We usually have about $100 in court costs. So right now, most of our cases average around a $250 fine. With the $100 in court costs, that's a $350 fine. Obviously, making it $500, now you're looking at $600 in total costs. Again, it was funny, and I saw you all laughing. Like, it's a gigantic yellow thing. Like, how do you miss that? And how do you miss the flashing light? And I don't know. Like, we create a lot of laws because of stupidity, and we're trying to, fix stupidity. I don't know that we can, but we can make it more painful for people, and that's really the only tool that we have. It does. Changing it to a mandatory minimum does affect the way Sean will be able to approach cases. It removes the flexibility out of cases. When I was doing defense work, you always wanted flexibility to be there, but I'm not sure. I think going to a mandatory minimum, just takes a lot of the discussion out, and it makes it. I still think, you still have the issue. The judge has to go along with it, no matter what, no matter which court you're in, and even if you changed, judges, you still have that to deal with. So there's the potential for more cases to get dismissed. There's a potential for more cases to go over to an area. But, we've tried marketing campaigns. We've tried to enforce the laws that we have. It just doesn't seem to be working. So.
Well, an example of it is the OPI law. Obviously, it's gravitated to the number of offenses, and obviously there is that person who makes that one-time mistake. Obviously, he doesn't go up to tiers, because obviously your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, obviously there's higher consequences. So obviously, like Mr. Hagan says, that first time OPI, you want to make it. There's a private suspension area where you give the prosecutor leeway first to say, okay, this was a mistake. It's not a chronic problem.
Sean, have we had any second offenses?
That was my next question. Have we had repeaters?
I have not noticed that. Most of the folks that I talk to are, in fact, and they're surprised. I usually look pretty carefully at their prior, because I look at all their feeds.
That's available to you at the time.
Yeah. And I do look at that because a lot of them are just basic traffic offenses, and I don't know if I'm going to help them on a traffic offense, but no point offense. As they often answer, I would, if you're asking, and I don't know if this is the appropriate part of the hearing for me to chime in, but I would say that not before making it an M1 where there's jail time available, obviously, at because as the mayor indicated, it implicates a couple of things. One, it is absolutely going over to a very important, so it includes jurisdiction here. But then it implicates that because it's a possible jail, that they wouldn't be afforded an attorney if they could afford one. There would be potentially a trial. There would be subpoenas. I would be bringing in bus drivers off out of the taking them out of the fight, in order to come and sit and possibly testify that day, or the inconvenience. When there's an assigned lawyer, there's always a potential for free appeal. So these are things that I don't know that far, so I wouldn't be for an one. I would be more favor of a mandatory minimum fine being raised, but I would prefer if it was a graduated scale.
First offense, second offense, third offense.
Yeah, and I think that I just see so many people that sit right there while I'm sitting there, and they're telling me I would have never done that. I have kids, I would have done it on purpose, and then they're telling at the same time I'm getting, look, I can pay most of it today, but I have to pay my electric bill, or I have to, or I'm on a disability, or that kind of thing. They're really having trouble often. When I assign a fine, I tell them the approximate fine. They're really having trouble trying to come up with the money, and they're thinking out loud where they're going to get it. Sometimes it's I would say heartbreaking and I feel startling. So if it was a mandatory fine of $500 on the first offense, that point very, very difficult, or you're going to catch a lot of people in that, and you might be catching people that you don't intend to catch.
No, issue a citation or a verbal warning or written applied for behavior. It's $300 for more than $1,000 to some dollar. It's just a number. $300 to your average doesn't deter us. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's, don't have to beat people up. I think it's just change behavior. $300 for most people looking at the city of Ridgeville is a significant amount.
Question, Chief. Do the officers have discretion when they charge with a bus offense, possibly a lesser offense?
No, because it fits. In other words, that the problem will cause is passing this out to the bus. In other words, there could be something additional to it, a careless operation, where obviously excessive speed, what have you. But no, we write to that particular offense.
I'm just wondering if they write it to like failure to yield.
Yeah, but that's where obviously the prosecutor comes in. We present it as what it is, and the prosecutor has discretion. That's what we don't want to take, because Scott does a wonderful job trying to figure out where is enough to deter future behavior.
I'm just thinking this, my passion, my yes.
Set your limitations.
52 and then for 35, and the officer said, I'm going to charge you the 15 over because if I charge you more than that, to take you to jail. And that's what I was thinking of.
And one of the things Mayor was alluding to is
us writing a story at the back of the ticket so that that straight gets more in court, and that's already been plugged in. That was some of the issue. And we'll take that recommendation, we'll write more of a story so she has more of an understanding of what it was. So we're trying to work with it and make it effective.
I think the timing is pretty good though, because the legislation, we create this for mandatory minimum. By the time we pass, it'll be around the time we go back to school, I would think. So, and again, with that in the headlines, that might help.
So, so prosecutor, do you typically have a minimum that you do on a weekly basis? 200, 250?
On a bus ticket,
Yeah.
I can't remember when I didn't ask for 250, with the exception of this one that I discussed the defendant's costs. He must have had a fantastic story. I mean, defense, I should say. I can't remember when I did ask for 250. So
in your opinion,
250 plus 100, and some people are like so upset that they ran past the school bus and that they're here. They're like, thank you, thank you. I'm so sorry, and they're off to pay. And then some people wince when they say, how much is the court costs? And you can see them calculating their head. How are they going to find $350 out of their budget? 250, I think, if you look, if they run the statistics for you, I think you're going to find that that's for 250 on that one.
so if we do end up sticking with the minimum, first time, second time, third time, 250 first time, 200 first time.
Yeah, I'm fine. I always explain them. I don't want to bore anybody, but I always explain, oh, look, there's 3 things I don't touch, and I was told I really can't touch. 1 is school bus tickets, 2 is through trucks, and 3, I can't make a speeding in a school zone a non-moving violation. So they kind of, that's how we start off the negotiations, and then we get to the 250. So if you wanted to pay 250 the minimum, or 300 or what you have, or rather make it absolutely mandatory minimum on the second offense. That probably much better than considering it.
Question that we have, it sounds like we haven't had a lot of repeat offenders on the school bus, but I'm sure we have somebody who's always here for some traffic violation. This one happened to be bus. I'm just wondering if maybe we want to send a message to those type of repeaters. Yeah, if somebody's always in here for speeding or whatever. This time you got caught on the bus.
Take the record into consideration. First time you get clean records. I mean, I'm good with dropping the whole misdemeanor. First degree. I'm good with striking that.
Should we get cited though? She didn't go past it.
Isn't there a 10-foot rule though, that have to stop 10 feet before or behind? That wasn't 10 feet. It wasn't 10 feet.
Gentlemen,
I think that.
strike. This is the misdemeanor.
Sorry for the interruption, folks. So we have a motion to strike the misdemeanor in the verbiage by Mr. Avens and a second by Mr. DeVries.
Are you going to change the amounts and jail and all that other stuff, or are you, what? I'm sorry, we're just looking for clarification.
Yes.
So we have to do one by one, we can actually just have an amended version, so. Want to go ahead and set the limitations? Same first. Offense, so the prosecutor. has-
Let me just point this out, because I just thought you're having a public meeting, you're having a discussion. Your decision right now, what you're proposing is to not change a thing. Because we've already established that we offer a $250 fine as average, almost on every occasion. So the perception is you're not doing it.
Well, the mandatory minimum would now be 500, giving the prosecutor the discretion to levy whatever fine he feels. Well, I understand, we also recommended that a second offense have a minimum mandatory though, so.
Yeah. If you have a mandatory minimum,
I understand it's not.
there is no discretion. So you have to come up with a dollar amount that is that mandatory minimum. You also heard that we really don't have repeat offenders. So, it's great that you're going to add a repeat offender, penalty, but we really don't see them. So I just want to make sure that when people look at this and say, what did you guys do? We want to make sure that we do something different than what we're already doing. I mentioned earlier, the minimum $250 fine that we've been giving out hasn't been changing behavior at all. So
It's a change the behavior of that driver. Apparently it has, because they're not coming back.
yes, but you're having this meeting for a reason, because people are still passing school buses.
Understand, but I don't think I think they're taking schools for $500 or $4,000 or whatever. Again, most folks don't think of the consequences or fines when they're committing traffic violations. Just wondering, is it possible on the second offense, it's just the second offense for any previous traffic violation?
I don't believe you can, I think it's like an OBI, you have to have like a message, I believe.
Good, look at the OBI, and I've seen those. They steadily get worse and worse, but you still get these folks who are 10, 12, 20 times and still have a stop.
Do you think the impact of the mandatory minimum on the first 350 and then a second offense 500 would make an impact?
I think the teeth of this is the points. Because obviously you get to enforce on consequences. Okay, where the prosecutor obviously on the first offense, he has the option of on the second offense. I don't know if he can do a 4-point violation or what have you. That's where the teeth is. Obviously, you get points for your insurance premiums start going through the roof because obviously you keep on passing stop school buses. A look back period of 6 years. That's what OBI does. It has a 20-year look back and it has a 6-year look back, 10-year look back. But that's where the deep of this is the points. Mandatory fine, mandatory points. That's just look. Dude, my concern is I've been in enough households in the city of North Ridgeville that I know $250 to $300 is going to put a really burden on something. That is my concern. In other words, by the grace of God, everybody here can probably pay that without a problem. There's people out there that's gonna, it's really, I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but Mr. Evans says, I think the first time a lot of times it's a mistake. I think there's some people who can compete. It's the 10% that are really, they don't get a rat's ass on anything.
Reasonable chance they don't carry insurance most
No, that's true too, but I think the prosecutor can speak to this. I think majority of people deal with people that just made a simple mistake. I don't think you have people out there chronically offended. I mean, there's a school bus we're driving past. It's not like drunk driving.
I understand what you're saying, you know, I get that, but you saw the videos, I mean. They clearly passed the bus, it's, you know, they had their head up their butts, you know, I mean, that's the only way to
Again,
describe it.
one lady and then the van that, like early morning, yet again, he could care less, somebody like that, those folks. Need to kneel, send a message from Boba Hart.
But, okay. But reality is a whole different ball of wax too. On somebody's first OPI, you usually don't get punished for the first OPI. It's usually a reckless operation unless they really hurt somebody or hurt themselves. I mean, that's the reality of it. We can say what's on paper all you want, but when something goes to court, your first OPI is usually some type of reckless operation or unless somebody else got hurt. I mean, let's talk about reality. And maybe we go back to there's enough laws in the books. We just need people to enforce them. Isn't that what this country's about? They want to make because that's a whole different ball of wax. But the point is, there's tons of laws in the books that aren't being enforced because the judicial side doesn't want to do it.
So at this time, do any members of council have any comments or questions? Anybody in the
Yeah, defenders watching the school bus. They'll never forget what a bus looks like.
I mean, the community
Sit on
service?
the bus with 50 kids.
And I see it both ways, like the mayor said, we're talking about young children who just run. But you're trying to find some place where obviously find it head.
Correct. And or it's gonna happen that one of these children are gonna get killed and then
No, I agree.
who's stuck with that?
The children are the community's greatest resource, and I've said that from.
I like the school bus drivers holiday. I mean, do they see repeat offenders?
Well, we don't really know. Yes, we don't.
Yeah, they just gonna make model and license plate.
Yeah, I thought maybe they recognize the vehicle.
No, so, no.
I wrote on a school once, it was the worst experience. So I can tell people a lot of kudos. I really do. It's a very difficult job. It's organized.
Roxanne, do you have anything else to add to it?
You know, I see all of the points that you guys have presented. I think we're in a situation that we are in, type of organization that is transporting like 70 kids on one school bus. I understand that, we're in a situation where we don't want to, I don't use the word burden, because that's not fair, to overextend people who are in a situation where they can't pay for groceries, they can't, they're not partners, but at the same time, how do I explain to a parent that, child is just flattened by a car that on a two-lane road just passed the school bus, a giant yellow school bus with flashing red lights. How do you explain that? Because I'm gonna be the one to explain, aside from the chief. And so, I see, I love the ideas of looking at a tiered system, and I almost wonder if there's ways of looking at a tiered system, by way of road. And what I mean by that is, 3-lane highway, 4-lane highway.
Where they're not gonna cross.
Correct. I mean, there are just some different rules that might apply, or, different, maybe even common sense. I drive down Hilliard every day, which is a divided boulevard, and I still stop on the other side of the road because I'm scared to death. So, I don't need to, but I do. On a 2-lane road, on a, cul-de-sac somewhere, how are you not stopping? Like, to me, there's no excuse for that. I'm sorry you can't afford electricity. I'm sorry you can't afford groceries, but I'm more sorry for that kid that just got run over. And so I don't know that, I look to our neighbors and I look at what they've done, increasing the fines, and I know that they've gone down, and I talked to the superintendents who were in very strong support of raising those minimums. And I know it got a lot of positive feedback from the community as a whole, because care about kids. Should care about kids. It's hard to put a price tag on it. So, you know, I like the discussion. I think this was all informative for me. I didn't know how this all worked, but you know, at the end of the day, we're talking about little 5-year-old children that are crossing roads and are depending on bus drivers who are vocal to help them do that. If that bus driver isn't vocal when those kids go, they just have one.
I agree.
Honestly, I think the second offense should require jail. I mean, how dumb are you?
Or a license suspension.
But yeah,
If there's a second offense, is it throughout the state of Ohio, through North Ridgeville, anywhere?
Well, I see, a lead to law enforcement automatic data system. It's a driver status, so I see everything they've done for the past several years.
Throughout the state.
Throughout the state, yeah. And in some instances, I see out of state tickets too, but they don't have a point value system. But there's, so the driver status, as you know, probably you can get 12 points, up to 12 points in a 2-year period. They start to fall off on a rolling calendar. So should you be the person who gets a 6-point offense, you know, and then you get a couple speeding tickets within that 2-year period, then you're kind of hanging on the precipice. But I think I'm digressing, but I can see prior offenses. I can see a prior school bus violation, I'm sure. So I guess the question would be, how far to look back? Back 2 years or probably be. But again, the chief is talking about OPIs. There's a 10-year look back on OPIs. So maybe a mandatory minimum on a second offense.
Does a decision have to be made today?
We could table it, have another meeting.
We got time to school. Should we pull our thoughts together?
Yeah, I do think there's any further discussion. I also like to hear from the law director too, that enforces the law, well, that writes the laws in our town, so.
It's application the next 2 weeks.
I have to admit, what I'm thinking is repeat offenders is any offense that they have passed, not just bus. That's, to me, that's showing a clear indication that there is more in our traffic laws.
So
I don't know if you can do that.
that would be like any moving violation, right?
Right.
Like a speed or a stop sign or a reckless operation. I think that's.
Right. I don't know if that's possible.
I believe you can.
Can we impose a higher point system? Like,
I don't believe so. I think those are set by the state. That allows the state computers to read your local ordinance and assign the appropriate, you know, point system.
you get an OBI, is it 6 points?
It's like, I think it's set down with the state, like Charles tried to say, that state's license. This is a
I'll make a motion to table this for further discussion. I'd like to hear back from the law director, so get his take on it as well.
Madam Chair. Excuse me, sorry. You have until July 5th, until the report is done. The committee motion is done. So July 5th is the next council meeting before July 15th.
We can reintroduce.
All right, a motion was made by Councilman DeVries to table this for further discussion, seconded by Bruce Avens. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
on to old business, discussion to amend certain sections of the North Ridgeville Codified Ordinance, chapter 476, automobiles, off-highway motorcycles, and all-purpose vehicles. This has been brought up again. I know that, Mr. Valesky, the former council person, you know, done a lot of work on this. He's had a lot of meetings. I'm not sure if the committee's not sure legislation or what your thoughts may be on this.
We've had a number of meetings, safety committees in the past, where both the law director as well as chief weighed in on it. The consensus was at the end, when it divided the committee, was that it was not enforceable. And we had a number of different things to look at as far as decibel levels, sound, types of vehicles, and acreage on land. And I wanted to get started on this process again, because there are a number of people who are continuing to have a problem, and now the problem's increasing. It seems like even in my neighborhood, which we've got right before, there's four-wheelers and motorcycles zipping around. It's unsafe. This past weekend, it was everywhere, my neighborhood, and I've never seen that before. I know that there's a couple residents here this evening that are experiencing the same thing. I've received a number of complaint phone calls. A lot of times they're hesitant to call the police because they don't want to have that combative relationship with the neighbor, but they want something done so that it's on the books in case they ever decide to get to the point where they want to call the police. And right now, I just don't know that we have anything there that gives us any teeth. Again, this is going to be a situation where we need help from both the chief and the law director and the mayor, as well as members of council, to write this legislation so that it makes sense. Chief, I don't know, is there anything further that you've discovered recently? Has it been a growing problem since we talked about this last year?
No, but it is the season, obviously, every time everybody goes inside and out, so it's starting up.
Have we been actively, I mean,
I'm not aware of us going for residents yet, in reference to. So. It's not saying that it hasn't happened. I agree with you. I think it's so complicated. Understand it, so understand it. There's nothing that's
it was pretty extensive. We got down in the weeds, but I think that we saved ourselves last time. And no offense to Molesky, but I think that we got to make it simple and enforceable, and give you guys a tool that you can use so that when you're on site, you can make a decision after assessment and say, this is a
And make it clear where obviously you're still allowed to use your push plow in the winter. You can still use the go get wood on the back 40. We're talking about recreational use. We're not talking about all that other using it to help you clean your yard or things like that. So, I think it can be done.
Cleveland, by the way. They're probably different than ours, so.
Are there any other members of the council that has any questions on this?
I would just agree with Councilman DeVries. It's still an issue. There's several places in my ward that comes up. And again, we need to make sure that the police have necessary tools to deal with it. It's not fair to them, it's not fair to residents. And we have them go out and they can't do anything because we don't have the right legislation. So we just need to make sure we get down. Get it done. It's an issue, it's a safety issue, something we can do.
Any members of the public?
I'd like to see something like that. We got a couple instances in our neighborhood. It's, the lot's not very big. It's 3 or 4
Are you
dirt
close to
bikes
Center
out
Ridge?
there at the same time.
Are you close to Center Ridge?
Yeah.
My office is right there and I know exactly what you're talking about. I can hear them at the windows. And it's all day long.
Well, that whole corner is a sore. I mean, that east corner, top of the road, it's not very friendly to anybody in there, but it's really not doing anything, I don't think, for the city. I mean, there's been several times that, people would fall down there, the car back away from her.
Jump
The mess out there they've got, that whole area is just a mess. Now they're out there right there. So, we're ready to say, hey, you got commercial property, but, so, I mean, you guys have a challenge, to address down there. I don't think anybody in the neighborhood likes that corner. I mean, it's not looking
I live 4 or 5 houses down from Center Ridge, but there's an elderly, couple of elderly people that I just feel horrible for. You know, I don't think they called or anything like that. But, the one, they go right up to the borderline of his yard and they're making ruts and spitting grass out.
That would be Mr. Gilbert.
I feel, horrible. I was gonna go over and knock on his door and ask him to come here tonight if he wanted to, because I don't know if he's called or anything.
I think that's what land restriction. is part of this, to make this effective.
Right.
It's too hard for all the fun, much. I see that myself. Yeah. Just, we don't have a problem.
Yeah, it definitely changed. I mean, I've been here for 50 years. And I remember back where the Loppin Bullfrogs is at, and the storage facility next door was just open land. And a bunch of us were down there mini bikes all day long, and can't do that anymore. I mean, the city's changed and progressed, and it's time to update our laws to reflect that. So I would recommend members of the safety committee, as well as any member of council who's interested, meet with the mayor, the chief, and the law director. Let's put something together that makes sense, something that we can definitely enforce and that fits our town.
Here it is, you want to ride.
I'm sorry, sir, if you're going to speak in the meeting, you have to step to the microphone and state your name and address. We have to keep minutes. We have to make sure that we hear everything on record. You're welcome to do so.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys know what's up.
So I'll entertain a motion to have the law department draft legislation with requested changes. And then the clerk to put a new temporary number to be introduced.
Second.
Yeah, I agree. In the process. This was made by Smythe, seconded by Bree. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? At this time, this meeting is adjourned.